Before I show you the run, I want to talk about some of the strategy that went into this fight, as I find it really interesting. However, if you genuinely don't give a flying fuck and just want to see the run, go to this timestamp. With the introduction out of the way, this fight was really interesting, for the sole reason that I didn't want to use backup. I wanted to beat this as cheaply as possible. Granted, this restriction did make me use quite a lot of ego, so it might be cheaper to just throw 12 2-stars at this fight. For this fight, I decided to use a team I've used a good couple of times. A team that I will be giving the name of 3ID Monty, like a 3-card Monty. If you've been keeping up with my 2-star runs, you'll recognize this as the team that I used for 7.5-11 and 9.5-12. But if you haven't seen those, it's a strategy where I use 3 to 4 IDs with evade and evade spam to hell and back to outlast the enemy, being essentially immune to unbreakables with this strategy. This is particularly effective against Rien for several reasons. For one, evades cancel out the clash power he gains from offense level, so he won't be rolling higher against my evades. He'll only be dealing more damage. And secondly, it really counters the shit out of Prescript Mark, as any evade ID with a little bit of luck can ignore 80% of his skills. So with this team chosen, which IDs did I bring? 7 Ryoshu is the easiest ID to bring to this team, no matter what strategy you're using. She has the highest raw damage out of any Ryoshu 2-star, and she is immortal for this fight, so her being relatively fragile does not matter. On top of her gaining a massive damage boost, this is a really easy pick. The next really easy pick is Syncotus, who on top of having just really good numbers, has the single highest rolling evade in the entire game. And our third pick is also pretty fucking easy. Butler Ishmael is a very reliable ID with good numbers, a decent evade, and some of the best selection of ego in the entire game, especially for 3ID Monty strategies. However, I did bring a 4th ID, and it may surprise you. It is an ID that hard counters Rien, almost as if their kit is built for this fight. I'll give you about 5 seconds to guess what ID this is. That's right, folks! Mariachi Sinclair!
But beer, Mariachi Sinclair sucks. He rolls an 8 with 5/6 of his kit.
Silence! He is really unironically, genuinely good for this fight. For multiple reasons. First off, his slow speed range, which is usually one of his bigger detriments, means nothing into this fight because of how Rien's targeting works. And Rien having a 1 to 2 speed range, effectively always rolling a 1. This means Mariachi Sinclair can really effectively evade tank with a really high rolling evade. Or worst case scenario, if he doesn't evade, he can sneak in some SP damage with his S1 or S2. But that's not just why we bring him. We bring him because he has the highest max HP out of any Sinclair ID, and there's a really good ego that applies really good effects based on Sinclair's max HP. That's right, Cavernous Wailing. This ego is incredibly slept on, and I think it's genuinely insane. This ego will give our entire team 58 HP and shield that carries over into the next turn. This ego can single-handedly negate all the damage from Furioso if the damage is spread out evenly. And that's only one of his ego slots. Mariachi Sinclair is genuinely unironically busted for this fight. Alright, that's the team. There's some other ego I didn't mention and support passives I didn't mention, but those matter quite a bit less. So I'm not going to waste your time any further. Let's just get into the run.
by the skip.